Hi everyone, in this video we're going to go through the straight line graphs revision test. It's a bit of a mouthful. So this test, remember, quite a similar structure to your actual test. So have a go at doing this perhaps on your own before watching this video, and make sure that if there's any questions you don't understand, that you work towards understanding them. All right, let's make a start. So in part A, we've got 6 multiple choice questions. So first of all, which of the following points does not lie on the line y equals 2x plus 1? So what we need to do is just substitute in each point. So remember, each point is x, y, so it has an x value and a y value. So you're just substituting it in. So for the first one, we're going to have 3 for y. All right, so we're just replacing here for y and x, or substituting, I should say. 3 equals 2 times, and x in this one is 1 plus 1. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So that point does lie on the line. So that's not going to be the correct answer, because if you read the question carefully, it does say does not lie on the line. All right, let's substitute the next one in. So we've got 7 equals 2 times 3 plus 1. That is also on the line because your left-hand side equals your right-hand side. And what I mean by that is 3 equals 3, and this is 7 equals 7. All right, let's do substitution for C. So -5 equals 2 times -2 plus 1. So 2 times -2 is -4, plus 1 is -3. So -5 does not equal -3. So C does not lie on the line. And then you could do the others to check if you wanted to. So let's do a quick check. All right, I can already see that this is going to be on the line because 9 is equal to 9. And then the last one is actually our y-intercept. So there's our y-intercept there. So it can't be that one either. So your answer for that is C. Question 2, the y-intercept of the line y equals 3x minus 12. Remember, your y-intercept is just the constant. And don't forget that negative in front of the 12. So it is -12. All right, question 3, the rule for a horizontal line passing through the point -2, 5. So we've got a horizontal line goes straight across like so. All right, so that's what it means by horizontal, and I might just write that here. Now, if we wanted a vertical line, that just goes straight like that. So that's a vertical line. Now, a horizontal line will always be a y equals, and a vertical line will always be an x equals. That's because a horizontal line just crosses your y-axis. It doesn't actually cross your x-axis. And a vertical line only crosses your x-axis, not the y-axis. So for this one, we want a horizontal. So it has to be a y equals. So either one of these. So we know then it's not going to be C or D because they're examples of vertical lines. So all we need to do is say, well, where does it actually cross the y-axis? So it crosses at y equals 5. So it can only be B. Now, if we just have a look at the others, so for E, what we've got here is actually a diagonal line, all right? Ones that we typically see, not a horizontal or a vertical line, so it's definitely not going to be E. And option A, -2, that would be down below here. There's -2, and up here is +5. And that is actually the x-coordinate of that point. All right, so the answer is y equals 5. All right, moving on. Question 4, the y-intercept of a line is -5 and its gradient is 3. The rule of the line is, so remember your general rule is y equals something times x plus something else. So here goes your gradient. And in this spot here is your y-intercept. So if we're being told that we have a y-intercept of -5, that's going to go in there, and a gradient of 3. So we want y equals 3x minus 5. So there it is, option C. All right, moving on to question 5. A rule gives the following table of values. The x-intercept, so we want the x-intercept for this graph, the x-intercept for the graph for this rule would be, all right, so the x-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So you just need to look across here at y and find 0, and your corresponding x value is -3. So our answer is A, x equals -3. All right, and moving on to question 6. A rule gives the following table of values. The y-intercept for this graph would be, so this time we're finding the y-intercept. So your y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. So we're just going to look across where we've got x, find 0, and the corresponding y coordinate is -1. So there's your answer, B. All right, moving on to the short answer questions. It's a bit annoying how it's just gone a bit skewed there. Let me just tidy that up. All right, so we've got 3 points on this Cartesian plane. So Cartesian plane is just a fancy word for this graph or your axis. So we'll start off with A, which is here. Now we always read the x-coordinate first. So your x-coordinate is on the horizontal axis. So if we go up from there or down, whatever you like to do, we can see that our x-coordinate is 1. And then we go across to find our y-coordinate, which is 5. And then we do the same for B and C. So B is actually on the line. So it's going to be at -2. We don't actually have to move it at all. But if we go across, it does meet at 0. And 0 is not actually written there, but 0 is where the two axes intersect. All right, and then lastly, C, going up to do the x-axis first. So it's 4, and then across, and it's a bit hard to see, but there is a negative sign in front of that 3, so it's -3. All right, in part 2, we're doing the opposite. So this time you've got some points, and we have to put them on the graph. So when we're doing that, remember we're reading the x value first, and then the y. So x, and then y, x, then y. So we've got the x-axis here, and then the y-axis. All right, so x equals 2 is here, and y equals 5 is here. So we just go up and across to where they both meet, which is here, and just make sure you label that as well. So that's D. For E, we're at -3, so I'm going to start at -3 and going to y equals -1. So that's going to be this point here. So that's E. And then we've got 0, 4. So x equals 0 is actually on your y-axis, and 4 is here. So it's actually our y-intercept there as well. So there we go. That's point F. All right, question 3. For the rule y equals x plus 3, we need to complete the table of values and then draw the graph. All right, so if you can identify what the gradient is, so the gradient for this one is the coefficient of x. It always is the coefficient of x in this form. It's 1, and your y-intercept is equal to 3. So your y-intercept is always when x is equal to 0. So I can just go ahead and plop that in there. All right, so your constant just goes where x is equal to 0. Now, if your gradient is 1, that just means we're going up by 1 each time. And going in the other direction, we just need to go down. All right, so gradient tells you how much you're going up by or down, if it's a negative number, for every time you increase your x by 1. All right, so to draw your graph, you can plot all 5 points if you want to, but you just need a minimum of 2 points to actually plot a graph. So it's always easier too if you did the two end ones. So this point here and this point here, do them in green. So x equals -2 and y equals 1, which is here. And then 2, 5, which is up here. Now, if you can draw a straight line with your ruler, that's awesome. Just make sure I get the right line. Okay, so going through those 2 points like so. And it's probably a bit easier for me to do on the computer than with a ruler, but just try to be as accurate as you can. And I'm going to make that line a bit thicker. All right, so you'll notice that the reason why I don't have to draw the other points is because they're actually just going to be on the line anyway. So the next one, -1, 2, is, just get my pen ready. Oh. Is here, and then 0, 3 is here, and then 1, 4 is here. So you can see they're actually on the line, and you can actually read other points off if you wanted to. So if you had to fill in a table, you can actually read them straight off the line. All right, moving on. So question 4, find the gradient and y-intercept for the rule, end rule for these table of values. All right, so let's do the gradient first. So the gradient is just how much your y is going up by, assuming that your x is going up by 1. So we just got to check that that is going up by 1, and it is. So what is our y going up by or down by? But in this case, it's going up. It's going up by 4, so your gradient is 4. Now your y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. So all you need to do is find where x is equal to 0 and its corresponding y value. So your y-intercept is at 10, and then you can just substitute them into your rule. So we're going to have y equals 4x plus 10. And remember, I wrote that rule before. I think it was in one of the multiple choice questions. There we are in question 4, okay, which has been in your notes quite a few times now as well. All right, and moving on to the next one. So let's just check that we're going up by 1 each time, which we are. And what's happening with the y values? They're going down by 2. So your gradient is -2. Now your y-intercept, remember, is when x is equal to 0. Now the good thing in part A is we could see where x is equal to 0, but 0 is not on this table. So we can actually add it in. So I'm going to add it to the left side, just kind of extend that table a little bit. Now if I'm going down by 2, going in the right direction, so going in this direction, that means if I'm going from 1 to 2 or going back, I need to subtract. So this number, I need to add. So this number here is going to be 11 and this number is going to be 13. So when you think about it, 11 minus 2 gives you 9, or 13 minus 2 gives you 11. So your y-intercept, again, when x is equal to 0, this time it's going to be 13. And then we can just substitute them into the rule, like so. All right, moving on to question 5. State the gradients and y-intercepts for the following, for the graphs of these rules. Okay, so your gradient is always the coefficient of x when it's written in this form. and your y-intercept is your constant. So I'm going to highlight all of these. Now there's nothing here, let's highlight that anyway. All right, so the gradient for the first one is 3 and your y-intercept is -2. Don't forget that negative sign. For B, your gradient is -3 and your y-intercept is 4. For C, your gradient is 4. Now there's nothing written here, so we've got to say it's basically plus 0, so your y-intercept is 0. And then for D, all right, just have to pause there, but I don't know what I got up to. Let's go on with D. So the gradient is -3 and your y-intercept is 2. All right, so your gradient and your y-intercept, you can identify them when it's in this form. So currently in year 8, we'll only be seeing them in this form, but maybe next year you will have to rearrange them to get it in this form. So just for now, it's going to be your coefficient of x is your gradient and your constant is your y-intercept, but your equations aren't always going to be written in this form. So just keep that in mind for next year when you do linear graphs. All right, moving on to question 6. Find the x and y-intercepts and then sketch the graph of the following rules. So your x-intercept, I'm just going to write it over here. So your x-intercept, we let y equal 0. That's because anywhere on your x-axis, it's a bit of a tongue twister, y is equal to 0. And for your y-intercept, we're going to let x equal 0, but we already know that our y-intercept is the constant value anyway. All right, so let's let y equal 0. So instead of having y, I'm going to write 0, x minus 3. And then we just solve for x. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So it's just a bit of an equation that we need to solve. So we're going to have x is equal to 3. So that's your x-intercept. I might just write that here. And then for your y-intercept, we can just read that straight off as being the constant, which is -3. All right, so let's draw those 2 points on. So your x-intercept is here at 3, and your y-intercept is there at -3, and then we just draw a straight line going through those 2 points. Now, when you draw your line, do make sure it covers your whole Cartesian plane. All right, don't draw a small line. It's a bad habit to get into, especially when you go on to do maths later on, like in VCE. If you don't go the whole distance, you're not going to get the answer correct. All right, moving on to B. So remember, you can also pause this video at any time. Sometimes I think I talk too quickly, but you can easily pause me. All right, so we're finding the x-intercept first. So I've just gone ahead and let y equal 0. So we're just going to solve this. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides first. So I'm going to have -2 equals -2x, and then divide both sides by -2. All right, so it's just an algebraic equation. So I get x equals 1, and then your y-intercept is just the constant, which is 2. So I'm going to write x-intercept equals 1, and the y-intercept is equal to 2. All right, so plotting them on is your x-intercept of 1 and your y-intercept of 2. And we're going to draw a straight line going through them. Now you should have a ruler. Extend that a little bit. There we go. All right, so there's the line for B. All right, moving on to the extended response. So Connor is saving up for a new bike. He currently has $50 in his bank account. Connor receives $20 pocket money each week. So complete the following table of values using T for time in weeks after Connor started saving and S dollars for the amount in his account. All right, so he's starting off with $50. So you can see at 0 weeks, he's got $50. So after 1 week, he's now got $70, $90, $110, $130, $150. All right, part B, we need to draw a graph using the points from the table. So it is a linear graph, so we do only need 2 points, but you can plot them all. You'll also notice that we don't have anything labeled on this graph. So time is going to go down here, and it does say T on the horizontal axis. And then we're going to put S dollars up there. It looks like a 5, but it is an S. And we have nothing on our axis, so I'm going to put that on. So 0 is there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can put 6 on if you like. And then going up our vertical axis. So I've got $50. I'm just going to go up by $50 each time. So 50, 100, 150, 200. And if I wanted to put 250 up here. All right, so let's plot all those points. So he's starting at $50. So that's going to be our y-intercept. And it goes up up $20 each time. So each minor line is worth 10. So we're going to go here. That's at 70. Then this is going to be 90. Now you don't have to plot all the points. Remember, you only need 2. If you do only choose 2, choose the 2 end points. All right, your graph's going to be a lot more accurate doing it that way. So 5, 150 is here. All right, so you could plot all the points, but because we're got those minor lines, it might be a little bit tricky. Where am I? Trying to get my ruler. All right, so with your ruler, oh, it's not going to let me draw on the graph. It's annoying. All right, I've got it working. There we go. So there's the line. All right, so you only need 2 points, and the 2 end points, so 0, 50 and 5, 150 is going to give you a more accurate graph than if you just did 0, 50 and 170. All right, how long does it take Connor to have $100 in his savings account? So $100, he only gets $20 a week. So we can't say it's 2.5 weeks. If we look at this table, he's going to have to wait until the 3rd week to have $100 in his account. So we're just going to do 3 weeks. What is the intercept on the vertical axis of the line drawn in part B? So it's 50. All right, so that $50 actually means that's his starting amount. Okay, now find a rule linking dollars with T. So we know our y-intercept is 50. We just did that in D. All right, and how much are we going up by each week? Do we remember? Going up by 20. So that's our gradient. So the rule, we're not going to use X and Y. We're going to use dollars, or S dollars is equal to 20T plus 50. So this just means I can substitute any value for T, so the number of weeks, to work out how much dollars I have in my savings account. All right, question F, use your rule to find out how much is in Connor's savings account after 10 weeks. So that means I let T equal 10. Excuse me. So we're going to have 20 times 10 plus 50. And you could probably work that out without doing the substitution. So 20 times 10 is 200, and 200 plus 50 is 250. So he has $250 after 10 weeks. All right, in part G, we're going to use the same rule to find out how long it'll take Connor to save $550, which is the cost of his bike. So that means he wants to have in his savings account $550. So in question F, we substituted for T. Now we're substituting for S dollars. So it's going to be 550 equals 20 T plus 50, and get my pink pen out. So it's just an algebraic equation that we need to solve. So we get rid of the constant first. So we're going to take away 50 from both sides. So that goes. So we have 500 equals 20t. And then we want to get rid of that 20 times t by dividing both sides by 20. And then that's going to give us t equals 500 divided by 20 is 25. So it's going to take him 25 weeks to save that much money. And I think that's the last question. Let's just double check. All good. All right. Bye.